I'm super excited to reveal my next film package, but first, I want to tell you a story. Back in 2015, my wife and I got married. It was awesome. The wedding was super dope. She actually walked down the aisle to a song from the Lord of the Rings soundtrack. It's the Shire theme song, so that was awesome. We both love Lord of the Rings. One of my favorite moments of our wedding. We knew that God was calling us to be parents. We knew that we wanted to be parents and God wanted us to be parents. And so we took that year to just hang out and have fun, but then we wanted to start our own family. So we started trying to have a child. After about a year of trying on our own, we decided to go to a doctor and see what was going on and why it wasn't happening for us. The doctor communicated to us that it's going to be pretty difficult for us to have a child. My wife's body just wasn't functioning the way it should. So we got on medicine, we saw doctor after doctor. It was very expensive, very difficult, and very exhausting, and it just wasn't happening for us. We spent about 5 years on medication trying our best to have a child. So we began praying. We asked our church family to pray. And eventually, God answered our prayer. The year 2021, it was right around COVID, but Katie got pregnant and we were so excited. Katie painted this beautiful mural in preparation for her room. We decided to name our daughter Maya Ruby Scott. We were just so stoked and so excited. I'm also a youth minister, so that summer we went to church camp, and Katie, being eight months pregnant, also came as a sponsor and was loving on those students. And we just had a great week at camp. Being that it was 2021, COVID was still a massive thing. And so we come back from Falls Creek. My wife tests positive for COVID. And we talked to our doctor, and the doctor said, if her oxygen drops below 92, that's when we need to come in. After about a week, things turned for the worst. Katie became very sick. And on July 26th, about 3 o'clock in the morning, got in the car and drove to the emergency room. And while we were there, the nurse brought an ultrasound machine out. She points on the screen. She says, well, that's her heart, but it's not moving. And so our daughter had passed away. Katie had blood clots all over her placenta, and so it was very devastating, very heartbreaking. We were just shaken up. It was the most dark time in my life and in Katie's life. It was very dark for us. And because that was such a big deal for us, we wanted to make sure that we remembered that time, that we remembered Maya, my daughter, and that we didn't forget the events that happened. And so I actually kept a timeline with everything going on, but I also wanted to preserve that memory in a different way. And so I decided to set up a camera, set up an interview session with my wife, and just let her talk about Maya and that story. That way we could remember our daughter Maya, and also so we could show our future kids and maybe our future grandkids. So I recorded this video, I recorded this interview with my wife. We made it very cinematic. We used the molds of my daughter's hands, the molds of her feet. That video was very precious to me in remembering my daughter. And so this idea came to me that other families have stories like that they have stories that are important to their family, that are important to their family's legacy. Maybe you have a similar story and you want to preserve that memory. Maybe you have a grandparent or a mom or a dad, or maybe your family has gone through something recently that's a memory that you want to preserve. And so I came out with this idea of doing legacy films for families, legacy films. And so this is where I show up, I bring a crew, we do a Netflix documentary style interview with you or a family member or your whole family. And we just talk about those memories. We capture those moments on camera so that you can have them forever. If you have a story that you want to preserve, reach out to me. You can hit me up on Instagram at John Scott Media. You can email me at johnscottmedia@gmail.com. Or you can go to my website, johnscottmedia.com. And I'm excited to show you this first clip of this legacy film from my dad. It's just gonna be a short video it's much longer, but I'm gonna give you just a quick taste of what a cinematic legacy film package will look like. Check it out.
All right, Dad, what was your childhood like?
Well, my childhood was great. Mom and Dad were both teachers. They met at the Iowa State School for the Deaf. Actually, we had two fires. One of them wasn't quite so bad, but one of them took about, maybe a third of the house. But it was, we only lived about, not even a quarter of a mile, maybe 200 yards from the International Airport Control Tower. And they spotted the smoke and called it in, and which saved quite a bit of the house. But the Tulsa Tribune came out and covered that, and they ran actually it's a pretty big picture in the paper. It was my dad, and he is 6'3", weighed a couple hundred pounds, played 3 or 4 sports, very masculine man, and he always wore a hat. He had his hat off and his head in his hands, and I'd never seen him look so dejected. I'm thinking, wow, this is my dad, and he looks like there's no hope. But, the next day or a couple of days later, he's up and he's at it and he's cleaning things up, and he was quite a carpenter, and he started rebuilding the house. And he actually even put a second story on that end of the house that burned. So he put it back together, and I was just amazed at the strength that he showed in rebuilding.
What were the first few days of fatherhood like?
Well, a lot of guys are kind of scared when they get a little bitty package, a little newborn there, but I was 35 or 6. Can't remember exactly how old I was, but it's great. I mean, when Dr. Hoffman brought you out there and put you in my arms, it was love at first sight. I thought, man, this is great. Look at this. Look what God's blessed us with. I built that tree house, and for you, it had that crow's nest. You guys loved that tree house. And Allison said, Dad, you built that tree house for Jonathan. Are you going to build me a playhouse? Well, at the time, I'd taken a job at USDA, and I was in Memphis, Tennessee. I said, yeah, Allison, when I get the time, I'll do that. Well, she kept bugging me, and that went on for several, months. And I was going to a church out there in Millington, Tennessee, and a really good pastor. And he had a sermon, he had a story, and he says, let me tell you about this guy story I heard. And he was a businessman, was real busy, and sometimes didn't have time for his kids. And he had a son. And his son kept bugging, Dad, will you help me? Let's build a tree house. Yeah, I'll do it, son, I'll do it. When I get time. Well, his son developed cancer, and is actually terminal cancer. And it went on there for several months while he was trying to get treatment, trying to get it taken care of. But it was the last few days, and the preacher says this guy visited his son, and his son looked up at him with a kind of a sad smile on his face, and he says, Dad, I don't guess we'll get to build that treehouse. Boy, that hit me like a ton of bricks. That weekend, I went home, back to Fort Gibson.
That same weekend?
That same weekend. And it was the next weekend, and took Al, says, come on, let's go get some lumber for your playhouse. And we framed that playhouse that day, and I finished that playhouse within the next couple of weeks. So.